are back. That's right. Bullish Bitcoin Banter and Bullshit Pod 157, brought to you by Mr. All-In, aka the Trillion Dollar Man, and myself, Sir Neverlook, aka the Excellence of Execution. Regular viewers and listeners will realize that there's no Mrs. No Show, surprise, surprise, but also Dr. Evil 10%, aka the People's Champ, is nowhere to be seen. Once again, vacationing. Now, he really has started to rack up the absences. Just what's going on?
Getting complacent.
Heart's not in it. Yeah.
We can't maintain this bull run with this haphazard, lackadaisical attitudes.
Yeah.
Everyone hodling strong and buying their Bitcoin. Hopefully he's still stacking his sats, still cheap. But we're nearly there. It's
We are
been,
nearly there.
what was it like? It feels like it's been like 2 years at about 40k in pounds.
Yeah.
The odd little flutter up to 15, but quite short-lived and back down. This feels like it's the first time we've really gone properly through it for a while. So we're at 55k now. We had to look it up before the pod. Like, what even is the previous all-time high? It's kind of bizarre, as obsessed Bitcoiners as we are. We didn't know what the all-time high was just because
It's crazy to think. Yeah.
it didn't feel like a real all-time high. Like the 51k from, what was about 4 years ago now. That felt like that was a big one because the previous all-time
Yeah.
high was 20. So now you go to 50, you're like, that's a big one. You remember that. But we went from 51 to 57. So 57 is the all-time high. 57.6. So maybe round it up to 58. And we hit 56 today. So we're a couple of K off all-time high. So who knows? Maybe by the time this is out, we might be there. I think it's almost definitely by next week. So next
Definitely
week,
by next week. Yeah.
next week's show writes itself. It's hopefully. If we don't
Yeah.
fix it,
Well, I said to a friend of mine actually, for once, I feel like I can predict Bitcoin will hit an all-time high because of everything that's going on. And as we slowly creep up, all the dips before, all the bull runs before, yeah, I could have maybe given you a slight steer on where they were coming from. But now it's just because money printers going brrrr and more as the election season hots up.
and it's crazy, isn't it? Like when you compare how we got to this price before, right? We were pretty much around this price, right?
Yeah.
51k. If you rewind to that moment, we didn't have an ETF, right? I don't had El Salvador even bought then? I think maybe they had
Mm-mm.
just, right? But it hadn't spread. All these companies that are buying, we've got loads of stuff on the agenda. You've got a president, in Trump that is openly endorsing, Bitcoin. You've got the other side that is, weaponizing against Bitcoin, but also trying to now be friendly to it to try and win votes. But either way,
Yeah.
it's one of the probably top 10 talking points for the US presidential election is Bitcoin. You
Yeah.
rewind 4 years, it wouldn't have been mentioned. It wouldn't have been in the top 100 subjects. And if one of them had been asked about Bitcoin, they'd have largely just gone, "What are you talking about?" Like,
Hmm.
why is that a question for me? It's like asking, "What do you think about this random penny stock down here?" Like, I have no opinion because it is a meaningless thing for the president of the United States to know about.
Yeah.
Now they know about it. We don't just have an ETF; we have a BlackRock ETF. There's billions in there. There's some of the biggest. Was it Paul Tudor Jones the other day?
Yep.
Predicting Bitcoin to go to millions of dollars a coin, and that the his general thesis on the financial market at the moment is that young people are seeing the S&P as a good hedge against inflation, but a long-term way of beating inflation is to buy Bitcoin. This is now like the evolved financial strategy is not stocks, bonds, and a pension fund. It's have some like almost the whole risk thing has been pushed up, and it's like, oh no, the safe thing or the safest kind of like is to hedge against inflation. Obviously, you can't keep cash. Cash is clearly trash, which
Yeah,
previously people would have done. You keep your cash in the stock market, but if you want to actually invest, best place probably to put that is in Bitcoin. Buying stocks is not necessarily an investment. It's just a hedge.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
that's that's the old savings account that promised you the 5 or 10%. That's just
correct.
keeping your money flat. Yeah, you think you're gaining, but you're not because obviously inflation is eroding the spending power, so you need your 5% just to keep up. But
Market always goes up.
yeah, and yeah, because the market, in reality, the market's staying flat. It's just that the money is worth less. So it looks
Correct.
like the stock market's going up, but that really all the S&P 500 tracks is inflation largely. You take literally you take out inflation from the S&P 500 gains, and it's a flat line.
What I was interested in as well, talking of which, whilst we're just on the stocks front, is Warren Buffett and Berkshire Hathaway at this moment in time are holding the largest pile of cash that they've ever had. And I think it was somewhere in the region of like, can't remember the number, but it was like Microsoft and Apple put together in terms of cash, in terms of their stockpiling of cash. So they are predicting a crash in the market soon, and then looking to cash in big.
Yeah. Well, at the moment, they're being made to look stupid because the market they tend to like do a nice diversified portfolio, don't they? And yeah, admittedly, they do put a lot into things like Apple and Microsoft and all that stuff, but overall, the market is at all-time highs. So
Mm,
who knows? All and at the moment, with all the presidents, obviously, it's the US dollar that is the one that largely dictates these markets. Both presidents or both candidates to be president are promising a shit ton of spending.
yeah.
So I think the only thing that the closest thing to austerity that you could say, which clearly the United States needs, but it looks like if Trump wins, Elon has promised he's going to cut $2 trillion worth of excessive spend inside government, which is easily possible. But when you look at that, that's gonna it potentially really could fix a lot of the problems in America. But
Yeah.
in the year or two that he does that, it could be pretty chaotic, right? It's like he did it.
Well,
He came in and
I was gonna say, we've seen how he came in Twitter just with the AK-47 and just took everybody out, including your favorite PA.
yeah,
Right?
we're
No
saying
one was safe.
Milei, the president of Argentina, he sacked the whole tax office. I think it's
Yeah,
11,000 people. He just fired them all. And when instead of like trying to cut this down and make it more efficient, just close the whole thing and start it up again over here at a fraction of the cost.
yeah.
Because and he's getting there's loads of protests around all that, but only from the tax office themselves. Like the people aren't going, oh no, yeah, don't like because you could just see that the amount of money they are spending on collecting taxes. You just go, is that really is it like a net positive on how much extra tax you collect because you are spending so much on collecting tax, or should you just
Mm,
spend less on collecting tax and then the missed tax that you don't collect is that more or less? But obviously that misses the point, and this goes back to Bukaleli's point is the fact that they collect taxes and make it look like it's so important. They don't need the money, but they need to give you the illusion that money has value. That's why the tax office actually really exists. They don't want the money. They don't need it. They can print it out of thin air, but they have to enforce you pay the tax to give the illusion that it makes you think that they need it. So that's the thing that Relay will be probably discovering because I think when you look at it as a profit and loss, it makes sense. But then when you realize it's not about profit and loss, it's about power and control and fear. That's why the tax office exists. Um, but yeah, it's if anything, it's crazy that all these things are happening and we're not at an all-time high.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
the amount of people that have come onto our team over the last 4 years, and these are big influential players. You know,
Correct.
some of the biggest, and we've got one on the agenda. Yeah, once we get past GigaCuck and his response from last week, you know, it's kind of insane as to why we're not at about 250K. If you'd have
Correct.
told me back when we were at 51, kind of 4 years' time, these things would have happened. What's the price now? In reality, I don't think like 2000, 2020 version of me,
Yeah.
I just struggled to say a number less than a million. Because I'd have probably gone, those things won't happen. They're the most unlikely things. That's too much in
Yeah.
4 years. Put it over 10. Maybe I'm believing you. It all happened in four, and then you're gonna tell me the price is basically static. I'm gonna tell you to fuck off. Like there's no chance. There's there's no chance all those things happen, and then if it does, there's even less chance that the price stays static. And somehow,
It's been a crazy 4 years. It
a lot
has
happened with
really
the price.
been.
Or
September 7th, 2021, El Salvador, because I remember we were recording back then as well.
of course, yeah.
So yeah,
That was pre the all-time high, was it?
well, yeah, that was back at pre all-time high, but when El Salvador adopted Bitcoin. And, back then, Elon just had to send a tweet and the
Yeah.
world of Bitcoin would just go crazy.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's just like, so what?
Oh yeah, yeah. The days of Elon. Yeah, it would send the price 10 or 20% either way, wouldn't it?
Correct.
You'd be
Yeah.
bullish one day, and then you go only joking and all about Doge, and we dump 20%. Like those days are so gone. Like no one gives a shit
Mm,
about what one person's saying now. The market is so much bigger than that.
yeah.
But yeah. Oh, the way I'm viewing it is it's just all this just pent up buying power. And there's clearly a lot of people shorting the price that is suppressing it. But eventually it's going to be like a cold spring. And once we break out of where we are, green dildo time, get your big strap-ons out. It's gonna
In the
like
words of
slap
Dr.
you in
Evil 10%, bring it on.
you. Oh man, yeah. So I mean, we got that to look forward to. I think obviously we've seen all the charts, haven't we? It's meant to happen now. From this October to next October is officially bull season.
Yeah.
Had a slow start, but here we are. Here we are. We're getting very, very close to all-time high. Maybe a nice all-time high by next couple of weeks. Burst through for Christmas. Orange pillar, the last couple of relatives that aren't in, and then 9 months of dildos. And let's see if we can
And
crack seven figures.
dildos and I told you so's.
Yeah, it honestly could be. It's kind of crazy, sat here. You were talking about it with the lottery ticket. It does feel like we have. If you're a Bitcoiner and you've put a sizable amount of your net wealth in, we've got the winning lottery ticket, and we're sat there, and the numbers are rolling out, and they match 1 to 1. Yeah, but at the moment we've probably got three or four numbers matched so far, and the big
Yeah.
ones are the next couple. And it's like, come on, give us the 100K and give us the milli, and then we were right. That's when we can go. We were fucking right, and we fucking told.
It's like that gives me more joy and excitement over the actual money.
And then buying your Citadel and fucking retiring, you just want to be like,
Yeah, yeah,
fucking told you.
yeah. The vindication to being right to say, I was telling you guys, you could have had this. This was all there for, I'd rather be rich together than poor alone. Like,
I
this
know.
is it.
Yeah. I don't think I'll even have to say I've been so vocal with my Bitcoin advocacy over the years. I don't think I'll even do it. I'll just be like, safe in the knowledge that there's literally hundreds of people out there that thought I was an idiot, extremist, scammer, whatever you want to call me. And they'll just be like, he was right. He was right. And then they'll fire up their laptop and dial into their Teams call and have to give their financial update. And it's like, can I have a job? Clean the boat goes inside my other boat. But if you want to get away from your team calls, but right, we tried to tell people, didn't we? Tried to tell them. Tried to tell
Try
them.
to tell them. And here's the digital receipts. So let's kick off with the first story, the GigaChuck, as he GigaCuck, as he's now called, right?
Yeah, man. Well, it went down well last week. That freaking 6,900 views. And here's say they're trying to save his reputation, right? So obviously last week he said that we're all, was it anarchist, crypto
Yeah,
anarchists if we
crypto anarchist.
self-custody our Bitcoin, right? We should leave it all on Coinbase, or somewhere like BlackRock. But now he's coming out saying, I support self-custody for those willing and able, the right to self-custody for all, and freedom to choose the form of custody and custodian for individuals and institutions globally. Bitcoin benefits from all forms of investment by all types of entities and should welcome everyone. I just replied, okay, Fed. But
Mhm.
so he's clearly on damage control here, right? Because his video from last week was very clear. He got asked specifically about self-custody, and he almost laughed in the face of the interviewer, going, "Self-custody's for crypto anarchists that think the world's going to end." You know, you got to be a little bit crazy to do that. Just trust a third party. And now he's completely walking it back, going, "Oh no, I support it," but obviously caveating it with, for those willing and able, and it's annoying. There's quite a few people that are supporting him, going, "Yeah, not everybody is going to self-custody, and hardware wallets are expensive, blah blah blah." And I just go, "This isn't. We need to solve that problem. If we genuinely think self-custody is too hard for the majority, then that just means we're missing a solution, and we should fix it because we are not going to move on to a Bitcoin standard if the majority of people hold their Bitcoin in a third party that is essentially owned or regulated by the US government. Because just look at the incentives. If Bitcoin does become the standard and replaces the dollar, of course they are going to steal your Bitcoin. So you have to take
Correct.
self-custody. So, they can still pass laws and make you a criminal by owning too much Bitcoin. And that's obviously the next thing that obviously Sailor discussed on his thing, going, oh, they're not going to come for your Bitcoin. That's ridiculous to even suggest that. They didn't come for your gold. But yeah, they did. You lied there, Sailor. We're not going to forget that either. You purposefully lied about saying that they didn't come for the gold because they did. They didn't mandate it, but they passed laws that said if you owned over an ounce of gold, $10,000 fine or 10 years in prison. Pick your poison. And yeah, they didn't come door to door and knock it, but people were terrified by that. They are terrified by their government. They don't want to be put in a cage. So they did rock off down to their bank and they gave in their gold and they got their IOUs and they never saw that gold again. So it's
Just reading through the comments, do you think Sailor was just trying to toe the line because he's worried that they'll be coming for him?
there's a chance, right? That's what the defense was last week, which was, oh yeah, he's playing 4D chess. He's pretending that this is the case, and really he's going, self-custody is absolutely king. But when he does his mainstream interviews, he's like, oh no, no, hold it on Coinbase.
Mm.
I don't get it. If anything, I think it's more likely that this tweet he's just done is more of him just buying favor back in with the Bitcoiners, going, "Oh, I believe in it really." So, well, why don't you say it publicly then? Because
Yeah.
how many people that haven't heard about Bitcoin would have seen that tweet, right? Probably zero, because you either follow Sailor on Twitter or you don't, right? You know, it wasn't a viral tweet or anything. It's just only a tweet that Bitcoiners care about. But how many non-Bitcoiners potentially saw that interview that he did with a mainstream media outlet? It tens of thousands potentially. So that's tens of thousands of new people that are learning about Bitcoin, seeing Saylor, who is one of the biggest personalities in Bitcoin, one of the biggest personal holders of Bitcoin,
Yeah.
and he's going, just shove it in Coinbase, he'll be fine. So they're going to follow that example. So either way,
Hang off
if I
his
was him and
words.
he needs to, if he needs to like protect himself, I would just go, don't do interviews then. Go a bit
Yeah.
quiet.
Yeah. People hang off Michael Saylor's words. And, he created the website Bitcoiners Hope. I don't know if you've ever been on it recently, but within there, he has a lot of the voices of Bitcoin and all of their interviews. And so every interview before that he's ever had will all be in there, archived away. And it was, as I said, it was worrying to see that he's changed his view on his outlook of things.
Yeah.
But that could easily sway a lot of other people as well, because he is, as you say, a pivotal voice in the world of Bitcoin. So yeah, the website is finally loaded, and all of his highlights are all on there. And then he's got a section which is called Leaders, and he'll have people like Adam Back, Plan B, Safe, Lynn Alden, all reputable people in the marketplace, and none of them are saying any of these things. But because he's associated as, again, one of these leaders in Bitcoin voices, and maybe even the most pivotable of all, because he's the most vocal, it could lead people down the wrong path, and hopefully it doesn't. So I appreciate his backtrack, but the damage is done.
Yeah. All right, let's move on with some bullish news, right? Because this next one is
Let's go.
potentially massive, right? So this is
Yeah,
Microsoft. So their agenda was leaked, or at least probably this is, a public document, right? Because they're a public limited
yeah,
company. So number 5 on their agenda, assessment of investing in Bitcoin, and this is up for a vote. So this came out, a couple of weeks ago. So we don't believe the board meeting has happened yet. This is Microsoft, right? The amount of cash reserves they have is enormous. And then Saylor, the GigaCuck. So this is where he's useful, right? I hate the guy now, but here he is being useful because he's tweeted, the CEO of Microsoft going, if you want some help, let me know. Because he's
he,
in this tweet, he's found what proposal 5 is. Here's the more detail,
yep,
not just a lackadaisical thing. And this is insane, right? When you read through here, they're literally talking about the average inflation rate in the US over the last 4 years, according to CPI, which is remarkably poor and corrupt measure of inflation. Hello, this is Microsoft, one of the biggest companies in the world, is 5%, peaking at 9. They are even there, they are saying in their shareholder presentation, which they know is going to go to is a public document, the CPI is a remarkably poor and corrupt measure of inflation that says it's 5 to 9, which clearly they're going, inflation is way beyond 5 to 9, which wow, this is nuts, right? Microsoft have 484 billion in total assets, which most of them are in securities and corporate bonds. Um, but that they only out and pace inflation, assuming the CPI is accurate, which it isn't. So bond yields are actually lower than inflation. This is nuts, right? This is orange pilling for every Microsoft shareholder ever. Because the lie that is, US government bonds is that they outpace inflation because officially according to CPI, CPI will be one number and the bond number will be slightly above CPI. So therefore, it outpaces inflation. That is a factual statement. But unless you challenge the accuracy of the CPI number, which they are doing, which is nuts. And they're not hiding this. They're just going, this is why we're looking at this. So you keep going down and they basically go MicroStrategy. They literally list it in here. Hold Bitcoin on their balance sheet. Outperformed Microsoft stock by 313%. And because do you know like MicroStrategy now is in like the top eight performing stocks of the last decade. You're up there with Nvidia, Microsoft, Apple, Amazon,
Unbelievable.
Google. So basically, there's a
A fraction of the turnover,
yeah,
but unbelievable techers.
yeah. So ultimately,
I
they're going. So even down here, right? They admittedly they do say it's volatile. We shouldn't risk shareholder value by holding too much. However, Bitcoin is an excellent, if not the best, hedge against inflation, and corporate bond yields are less than the true inflation rate. So at a minimum, companies should evaluate their benefits of holding some, even if it's just 1% of its assets.
mm,
So for a company like Microsoft, what is that? They basically, let's just say they hold 500 billion in assets. 1% is 5 billion. That's a cheeky little toe in the water. Don't want to rock the boat. There's my 5 billion. Or if it goes well, oh, we might just shove 100, 200 billion in. And this is directly out of US government securities. This is why when we go, can Bitcoin and the US dollar survive side by side? It's like, in reality, they cannot. Because where's the money going to come from to pump Bitcoin? This
yeah,
is where it comes from. The big money comes from the thing that is underpinning the US dollar, which is the billions and trillions that is in their US corporate bonds. So when a company like Microsoft that has pretty much 500 billion of that goes, we're getting screwed here. This money is just rotting over time. We think we're getting our 5% and inflation's 4. But when we look at it, we know the spending power is going down. So we're being
yeah.
lied to. Inflation clearly is more than that because we have less money now. The spending power of our money is going down, down, down. Toe in the water, buy a bit of Bitcoin. By the end, all 500 billion is in Bitcoin. What that has directly devastated the US dollar. The price of those bonds falls through the floor. Because what if Microsoft do that? What's everyone else going to do?
Well, this is what I was just thinking as you were speaking just then. So, of the Magnificent Seven, as they're called, in terms of stocks on the US like FTSE 500, right? So no, S&P 500, not FTSE, that's FTSE 250. So basically Microsoft is the best dividend payer out of them all, out of the big seven. And what I was then trying to look at is if there's a knock-on domino effect if Berkshire Hathaway also own Microsoft, but unfortunately they don't, because that would have been even more of a leading indicator for everybody else to buy it. Because if Warren Buffett buys it inadvertently, then that would have been great for more people to be like, aha, right, I need it. But MicroStrategy and Microsoft sound very similar, but do different things in terms of their Bitcoin strategy. And but maybe they might have more similarities, not just in name and more in balance sheet. And I do hope that they take Michael Saylor's call on board because that would be great.
Well, yeah, because he's literally listed in their
He
board.
has the playbook.
Yeah, and they list him as an example, and the Microsoft shareholders are seemingly salty that this little company called MicroStrategy
Yeah,
outperformed their starting. It's not just in like percentage increase, it's also just in overall value created, which is nuts compared to like the tiny little company that they are. And they're going, if we'd have just converted 10-20% of our cash holdings over the last 5 or 6 years into Bitcoin, our share price could have 10x instead of just staying stagnant. Because even though like we're obviously complaining that the price has been like largely stagnant, during that there's been lots of dips. So if you've been DCAing throughout, the price you've still made like 3 or 4x your money based on just DCAing throughout, because that's all Sailor's done, isn't it? He came in pretty
Yeah.
much at the top, like near that,
Yes.
near the top that we're talking about. But because he DCA'd all the way through, he went all the way down to 16 and then back to 70. So there's a huge amount of gains that were held in there, if you did consistently DCA over that time period. And that's why the MicroStrategy stock at the moment, it is going nuts. It's up 10-20x in the
And
last 4 or 5 years.
on a CEO front as well, I mean, Michael Saylor's got an awful amount of credibility because he was the CEO of MicroStrategy from 1989 until 2022. Still heavily involved in MicroStrategy, just taking a completely different role, more like the evangelist of Bitcoin for the business as they are, Bitcoin buyers as well as their standard like kind of job as well. So if 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 Microsoft take him on board, I think we really do skyrocket. And we've talked about these other things like El Salvador, like the ETF, but I think that is one that again takes us over.
Yeah, I think it is. Because you know what, like Elon did it with Tesla, and then
Yes.
Saylor's done it with MicroStrategy. They're both outliers, aren't they? They're big risk takers. Like Elon is obviously probably the biggest
Yes.
risk taker there is. Right? Look at every single of his company. It was 1,000 to 1, probably 1,000,000 to 1 that those companies worked, and every single one of them has worked. Like he is nuts. So when he puts Bitcoin on the
A
balance sheet, you go,
calculated risk in his head, which has always paid off because we've not seen a failure yet. He has hit home run after home run after home run, which is just
yeah,
that's a podcast within itself. And I know we've kind of talked about it or touched on it, but you've got the PayPal, the Boring Company, Tesla. There's more as well that I'm
SpaceX,
forgetting.
OpenAI.
Correct. And of course, yeah. So I think I saw the Neuralink. Did you see the guy that they has been like the first person to have Neuralink inserted?
Yeah, it's
It's just crazy
yeah.
that that's again linked to Elon.
So yeah, I think when someone like him does something in Bitcoin, the majority go, yeah, but he's right on the edge. He's when you've got the whole chart of early adopters and innovators, and then the early majority, late majority, the laggards. He is in the first couple of people in the chart in Elon. He's right
Yeah,
there. So most people
but
go,
but the sentence that you just said, not he's right on the edge. He's right, and that's it. Leave the word the edge.
yeah, he
It's
is.
just he's right.
He, oh yeah. He is also every time he is right. But the majority of
Yeah,
people don't follow it, right? But when you Microsoft, they're not. They are definitely in the early majority. They're over the chasm, right? They're not an early adopter. They're not an innovator. There's the chasm. Then there's the early majority, then the late majority, then the laggards. I'd shove Microsoft in that early majority. They don't need to be super innovative anymore. They'll let everybody else do that, acquire it or copy it. Right? That's
yeah,
the
yeah.
that's the playbook of all these big blue chips. Once you become, that big, it tends to be your internal innovation is larger trash. It's very hard to innovate from the inside of a big company like that. It just is. So you let
You're
other
talking
companies
about our conversation before
do it.
we
Yeah.
started recording.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have your time, and then you just have to acquire innovation after a certain point, and it's sad, but it's just true. So if Microsoft, obviously the vote hasn't happened yet, but if it does and it comes down positive, and the way that agenda is written, right, that is not written in a way that is, oh, we're just testing it, or it's designed to be a no. That is written as a pitch to say yes.
Yeah,
That's a, that isn't an agenda that's unbiased. That was,
yeah,
it's almost like a Bitcoiner wrote that.
yeah.
Like, because you can't get to the end of that like agenda item, and clearly there's more collateral. I'm sure that will be presented alongside that, those couple of paragraphs we saw. But if it's
Couple
just
of
an
copies of
expansion
the
of that,
Bitcoin Standard.
yeah, it literally is. And it would be nuts. It's basically going the government lied to you about inflation. So the government bonds that are supposedly meant to hedge against inflation, they don't. So our cash
Mm.
reserves are rotting. Um, Here's a company that has spotted that before us 5 years ago. They're called MicroStrategy. Their share price has gone through the roof. Bitcoin has gone through the roof.
Yeah,
It would be, it is against um our judiciary duty to our shareholders is to protect shareholder value. So we are not doing that by putting our cash reserves into government bonds. So we should put at least 1%. It looks like the worst case scenario is they put 1% into Bitcoin. If it gets a
mm,
better, more positive impact, it might be 10, 20% of that goes into Bitcoin, which could be 50, 100 billion. And yeah, you get a Microsoft do that. That starts to set the precedent for chief financial officers around the globe suddenly go, the playbook just changed. Because a lot of them,
yeah,
obviously, obviously I've sat on these boards. They're your cash reserves. You do hedge into various currencies, no matter who you are, what country you're in. You'll hold dollars, pounds, euros, yen, all of them, just in case one of the economies collapse, and then suddenly um you're affected. And if you need to be paid in dollars but receive it in pounds, like if there's suddenly a big swing, your business can shrink by 20% just because the dollar dips or the pound dips or whatever. So you want to have exposure to all these currencies. Bitcoin has never been on that agenda. If Microsoft do this, I think suddenly it is. And every company in the world will be scrambling to get some Bitcoin on the balance sheet. Uh, that
what we
is
should
that's
also
nuts for
remember.
and that's $1 million Bitcoin. That is.
Yeah, definitely. What we should also remember is the way that MicroStrategy did it is with debt in terms of lending from a bank, whereas Microsoft actually have the cash themselves.
Yeah.
So if they could obviously, if they wanted to, they could lend the money
Yeah.
also, and still keep their cash reserves, or like your good self, they could go all in and put the house on it
Hmm.
and then some in terms of lending additional money as well. Once they kind of get a taste for it and it works.
Yeah.
Now that, give me a number, what number Bitcoin comes out at that.
That's basically infinity at that point, yeah. Because I think that's like it may happen at some point, but I think it's extremely unlikely. Because obviously with Saylor, when he first started buying, he was just buying with the profits. It was just the balance sheet money, and then
Yeah,
I think he had a couple of 100 million knocking around somehow. And then it's ended up being every 6 months or so, there'd be
yeah,
another 25 million. But then buying like that, but then in recent years, he started buying 1 billion of it
yeah.
in chunks of 500 million to 1 billion. That was when he realized, oh, you don't just have to buy it with your cash reserves. You can also buy it with debt. And that's when he went, yeah, he went
Nuts.
past all in because
Yeah,
he
yeah, he
has
has.
he has more Bitcoin than he does the value of his business because it's a lot of it is debt.
But the beauty of it is as well, because of the business and it's a revenue generating and obviously revenue profitable generating business, is they're getting the debt at 0%. So it's an asymmetrical bet as well.
Yeah.
And Saylor naturally is a billionaire. So worst case scenario, he could pay it off himself and then go back to zero and still be nice.
Mm. Well, yeah. Worst case scenario for him with MicroStrategy is the company goes bust.
Well, the company goes bust. Yeah, you don't take personal liabilities on it yourself, and so yeah, okay,
But yeah, it's nuts. That's definitely one the next couple of weeks. If that
for
lands,
sure.
like just the news of that landing before anybody buys, that takes us to 100K. And I think over the next year, or
Yeah,
maybe over the next couple of years, that's $1 million Bitcoin. Just that one story, because that will just
well,
change.
everybody's heard of Microsoft, so
But yeah, everyone
it,
is using like Microsoft right now in some shape or form.
yeah,
Like, everyone's got Outlook or Word or Excel. Like, no matter whether you use a Mac or not, you can guarantee
yeah.
no one uses the native Mac apps on there. They're trash. So yeah, it's yeah, Microsoft is still a huge. Yeah, they're still like, what is it like? They're still like the third or fourth biggest company in the world.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, this is yeah, this is Bitcoin going mainstream, and our next story is the same thing, right? So we've
I
got
wonder again what the because I this is an insight into my mind of so then what does the media say? How do you spin this as Bitcoin bad when the likes of a reputable organization like Microsoft then pick up the mantra and then run with Bitcoin.
yeah,
Because there's always been something, hasn't there, to kind of say, oh, there's this or there's that. But when you have a legitimate company, and I also watched an interview with Tim Cook, Apple CEO, and he said it was along the lines of it would be stupid not to own a little bit. And he kept on referring to a little bit. So he was not like I'm all in at all,
yeah,
but as a personal individual, he holds Bitcoin, but he hasn't yet equally put it on the Apple balance sheet. I can't see why he wouldn't also then follow it if because it's the classic case of well you're doing it for yourself in your own personal life. Well, as the CEO for the business and obviously you know caring for that business, why wouldn't you do it if you're seeing it work elsewhere? So maybe Apple follows Microsoft.
yeah. I think it's this is it's just the fact that these guys have been even asked about Bitcoin, right, is
Yeah,
crazy. But then the fact that we're now on the agenda for the Microsoft board meeting and it's written in that way, like it's clearly come up before, but as a
yeah.
non-official topic, and it must have come up so many times that someone's gone, right, we're not just going to talk about this informally anymore. Somebody look at this properly and bring it back for a decision because it's ready. And this is what Saylor wanted when he brought it, put it on the balance sheet. He was running all those podcasts and seminars, wasn't he? He's writing the playbook.
Yeah,
This is how you buy it. This is all the various regulatory forms that you have to fill out. This is how you custody it. This is what you need to do. So the playbook has been written. And I did think at the time, it's like, oh, I wonder how long it's going to take for anyone to take him up on this. And I just
yes.
back in 2021, 2022. So we're probably 2 or 3 years later. Here it is. It turns out it takes 2 to 3 years for a board to shift its opinion from curiosity to it being an agenda item that's being voted on. So this is it.
He did say it would take a while as well because of
Yeah.
the bureaucracy within some of these organizations. Whereas, obviously, as the majority shareholder at MicroStrategy, it was kind of like, I'm going to have a debate about this, and
But
but
I hold all the
it's
vote.
still my word. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I hold the power, bitches. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like there's 10 people in the room. They've all got like 3 votes each. He holds 50 million votes. So let's put this to a vote. He wants to
Yeah.
put all of our money on in Bitcoin. I
Yeah,
vote
I'm
50
just
million
running it past you.
times.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just telling you what I'm about to do. That's all. I'm not asking your permission.
Yeah, it's just yeah. But yeah, actually, yeah, one thing I was going to add is I think a lot of people would probably wanted to wait on the sidelines as well to see how MicroStrategy did. Not
Yes.
only of the price, but it's almost, does it get hacked? Is there, regulatory problems? What just all the potential pitfalls that could have come by holding Bitcoin on the balance sheet. Is it, is the SEC going to come and fine you
Mm,
for holding a dangerous asset on your balance sheet? Until someone's done it and then nothing happens, that risk could have been raised and couldn't have been mitigated because it's like, well, no one's done it. So maybe we would get fined by the SEC for holding Bitcoin on the balance sheet. We don't know.
yeah.
But now
Yeah.
MicroStrategy's done it for 3 years. It's all fine and dandy. Their share price is rocketing through. All they've done is kept adding more and more and more. You're like all these risks are just getting ticked off. It's like, nope, these aren't risks. Line through that, line through that, line through that, line through that. The only thing that seems to be left is your volatility. So if you're short term, if you want to use that cash like in 3 months or 6 months, there's a chance that you will be holding less if you put it into Bitcoin than you did in bonds, right? That's guaranteed to go
Mm,
down by 5 or 10% year on year, but Bitcoin could go down by more than that. So if you are about to acquire a company for 300 billion, maybe don't put that 300 billion into Bitcoin if you're about to do that in the next 12 months. But the rest of it, shove it into Bitcoin over a 4 year period, it will perform well. But obviously in 3 to 6 months, I would agree. If you have plans to use that money, don't put it in Bitcoin because you might be 30% down and then you can't afford to buy the thing you want to buy.
I'd also think about, from an election perspective, how whoever may win will treat Bitcoin. And now maybe we're being slightly biased, but perhaps the favoritism is for Donald Trump to win. And where these large organizations get tax cuts and tax benefits, maybe that's also an incentive that has been discussed as well, with the likes of Donald Trump, should he win. So he gets money in his lead up to the presidential candidate race. And then, of course, what we know happens is once he's in, the favors come back in return, and then everyone's a winner. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours.
Indeed. And then next story is we've got Willy Woo here, who's a Bitcoin trader, but I still follow him because sometimes he has some good insights. And here he is at a Swiss bank, and the chief information officer is explaining to clients why Bitcoin might be the next global reserve currency, and it's nuts. Bitcoin by 2050, Bitcoin is sound money. And it even mentioned layer two that will, basically enable the transactional layer. And by 2050, it could well be the international medium of exchange. So this is an internal presentation at a Swiss bank saying that basically in the next 25 years, the US dollar has fallen. Bitcoin is now the world reserve currency. It- How how much more bullish do we need to be? These are the enemies. These are our enemies, right? That for the entire time I've been in Bitcoin, the banks and the big CEOs have called us rat poison, scammers, terrorists, racists, sex traffickers. They've all just done a complete 180, and now they're more bullish than most Bitcoiners I know. 25 years, they think it's pretty much locked in that we're on a Bitcoin standard now. Like I know quite a few Bitcoiners that would go, no, that's too quick. Yeah, or maybe a lot of Bitcoiners that I can see on Bitcoin Twitter sometimes go, I don't think that'll happen. It's almost
Yeah,
like going to the full Bitcoin standard is quite, like an extreme position where the US dollar essentially falls and we now do denominate, everything in Satoshis, not in dollars. But that's my position. It's why I'm in Bitcoin. I'm here to, for the revolution, not just to, get to 200K and stay there and be like, oh, that was a nice investment. Like, no. We at 200K we achieve nothing. We don't achieve anything really until Bitcoin's about $10 million per coin, because that basically means the US dollar has fallen. Um, and the bankers are now saying the enemy.
Yeah, yeah. What's the quote? First they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win.
Yeah, I think is it like they laugh, ignore, fight, then you win.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think we're very pretty much in the we win stage now.
Yeah, exactly. That's where I feel like we're at right now,
Yeah.
because everyone is talking about it. I mean, it's very rare for people not to know what Bitcoin is, even though they don't know what it is. So they have an idea of it, but 9 times out of 10, that idea is wrong. Right. Well, let's see. Watch the space. I'm sure they will again, as always, be a staple amongst our agenda.
Yeah, and that's it wouldn't be a bullish show without shitting on the shitcoiners, right? Just to hammer this point home. So it's random shitcoiner. I just saw this tweet and just thought, it's just the final nail in that coffin, isn't it? He goes, crypto is becoming less investable aside from Bitcoin. To say you're investing in altcoins at this point would be like trying to claim you're going to the casino to invest in chips. We used to buy into big, very stupid ideas. That is gone. And it's just so true, because this round, right? We were always speculating on it, weren't we? Going, what's going to be the next bull run scam? It was NFTs
Yep.
last time. The whole world got sold that fucking JPEGs on the blockchain somehow had value, and every fucker got convinced that somewhere there was a use case. And Bitcoiners were just sat there going, "What the hell is going on?" And sure
Yeah.
enough, it all exploded. And before that, it was all, this is what you
And
get.
no noise. And when it exploded, there was no noise.
Yeah, everyone just pretends that, oh, no, I didn't do that. But before that, it was the big ideas. Like
Correct.
it's going to be the Amazon on the blockchain, Apple on the blockchain. It's going to be farming on the blockchain, diamonds on the blockchain. Just name, schools, education on the blockchain. Like all these projects claimed that they could disrupt an entire sector by creating a token and just pretending. But now, in the latest evolution of the shitcoins, they're just memes. No one is even pretending to have a business. They're not pretending to solve a big idea. All they're going is memes are viral, memes have value. This is the best meme. Buy it and you'll make money. And why? Because it's a funny meme and other people want to own the meme, therefore number go up. But
Yep.
but eventually number comes down, right? Because eventually there's a better meme. Yep, there'll be a better meme. So you got to get in at the right time, get out at the right time, then get into the next meme. It's literally just following a load of degens around, crypto Twitter or shitcoin Twitter, trying to ride the wave of the latest meme, and maybe you'll make some money. But obviously, in the whole concept of that, if someone's making millions, it means there's millions of people losing thousands. Right? There has to be people on the other side of the trade. So if someone's going in with 10 grand and walking out of 10 mil, that
Yep.
means they took 10 mil from all the silly people that put their $1,000 in and fundamentally lost it. So it's nice just to see this, really, to go, even these crypto people are going, unless you're just going down the casino and gambling, the only real asset that exists in this space is Bitcoin. And we're just all sat here going, finally. Have we, not only have we won over the politicians, the countries, the companies, have we finally won over shitcoiners as well? They finally collapsed and conceded that like literally their entire space, because we always like, crypto's here and Bitcoin's there, right? We always
It's true.
refuse that. They're literally admitting that crypto is it's nothing more than a different version of a roulette table. That's all it is. They invented a roulette table, that a different way of spinning the ball on. That's all they've done. where Bitcoin is actually solving a real life problem. We've invented money here. Bitcoin is here to disrupt money. Everything else is just a scam and a gambling game. You're like, wow, how many more wins do we need in 1 week? And why the f
Um,
at all-time high yet? Like,
yeah, I
all
just
the
checked as
shitcoiners
well.
should be going, fuck, this guy's right. Sell your shitcoin, buy Bitcoin.
Yeah,
And we're still not
I'm
all-time
seeing
high yet.
I'm seeing less so in terms of the tide bringing these shit coins up. Not that I, peruse the shit coins, but ultimately the rest, there's nothing outstanding. And I don't believe that people are still going back into the age-old adage of, oh, we'll buy the second best because it doesn't have as far to go.
Yeah, I
We'll
think
see.
that's gone.
Yeah,
I think like the ETH's performance against Bitcoin over the last 4 years has been so devastatingly bad that it's just exposed everything. And the
because
problem
there's
is
an
it's been so
ETF
long.
now.
It's been like a decade now or something since Ethereum's been out. It still doesn't do anything.
Yep.
So in the early years, there was always that potential that, oh yeah, Bitcoin has solved money. I don't think that was ever really in debate. But then they were just going, but there's so many other problems to solve, and that's what crypto was going to do. Like Bitcoin will be the money, but
Mm.
then crypto is going to be the rest of the internet, and all the things that exist on the internet all need replacing with this blockchain technology. And it all turned out to be bollocks. And the only problem that needed solving with a blockchain was Bitcoin and with money due to the double spend problem. And we all said that, you know, we've been saying it for years and years and years. And obviously, and then they've had so long now to go, okay, solve one problem other than money. Out of all the problems you've said you will solve, and you said you would solve all of them, solve one. Name one use case. And there just isn't any. And so it's just even
I'm
the
waiting to
hardest.
be swayed. I'm so open. I'm so like I want to hear why.
Yeah, it's just dead. They just know it's dead. And yeah, it's so now that's why they pivoted to memes. Because I think they tried to pivot to money. For a period of time, Ethereum was trying to go, oh, actually, we'll go after the money use case. We'll pretend to be money.
Mm,
But then that doesn't work when they've dropped about 75%, I think, on the price to Bitcoin ratio. So that doesn't
that's right.
work very well for them. So they've had to pivot off that, and they pretty much have nothing left. So yeah, even the shitcoiners are just coming on board, and you just go,
And
that's
if you think that's the second largest coin in terms of crypto, obviously Bitcoin one, Ethereum two, and I struggle to remember what, well, not that I follow it that much, but just thinking what the total holdings for Bitcoin are, and it's just crazy to think that that money will never come back unless, of course, people get out of Ethereum and into gold. If they want that whole buy it, leave it, forget about it. So yeah, I think they need to. I think they need to do some more shopping around and bring this, all together.
yeah, well, the market's spoken, hasn't it? It doesn't matter where you look. You look in shitcoin land, you look in the corporate land, you look in country treasury land, they're all coming to the same conclusion
Hmm.
that inflation is the biggest problem that you need to fight against. The numbers they tell you that inflation are a lie. So you need to significantly outperform the fake inflation numbers they give you. And the best way of doing that is to buy Bitcoin. Everybody is coming to the same conclusion. And we're just sat here
Sounds too
going,
easy.
about fucking time.
Yeah, yeah, I know. It does.
It takes you back to the conversations, when you guys weren't Bitcoiners and you were looking at different investments and da 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 da. You're going, what about this? What about that? I'm going, Bitcoin will outperform it. But if I put Bitcoin to one side, I can actually give you an answer. But my answer is already Bitcoin, right? Whatever
Yeah,
you're suggesting, the answer is no. Don't put your money in that. Buy some Bitcoin. And we look back on that, it was right, wasn't it? If
it
you'd
was right.
listened back then,
It was fully right. I hate the fact that you're right so often, but it's so right. Yeah,
it's just, and that's the thing. It's like, obviously I can take credit for like learning about it, but I'm just like standing on the shoulders of giants. There's so many smart people in Bitcoin that came way before me. All I did is listen to that. And
yeah,
that's all what these people are doing now. So all these country leaders, these company leaders, and these shitcoiners, all they're doing is listening to the same people that I listen to and going, "Oh my God, the answer was right there all the time. It's Bitcoin, isn't it?" And they're finally coming to that conclusion, going,
yeah.
"Fine, fine."
Fine.
I thought, but what about a
Don't-
diversified or portfolio? That's what Warren
No,
Buffett
no,
said.
no, no.
We're in a new age. We're in the evolution of money here. This is not a diversified portfolio time. All you're going to do is dilute your gains. Any money you don't have
Yeah,
in Bitcoin will just perform less well. So you're just stealing from yourself if you. But yeah, what a freaking time to be alive, eh? What we've been waiting for.
brilliant. We're doing it. So, last, no, second to last one.
That's it. I deleted one of the stories because I realized I was being I got trolled by a Power account.
Ah, right. Okay, cool. Right. Well, we've kind of adopted a new style of pod. Slightly shorter, a little bit more punchier, but of course, packing the same heat when it comes to the stories. But that's been Pod 157, brought to you by Ebony and Ivory. That is Mr. All In, aka the $1 trillion man, myself, Sir Neverlook, aka the Excellence of Execution. He's normally here, but he's had a couple of absences. Dr. Evil 10%, aka the People's Champ, and Mrs. No Show. Still no show. Who is actually truly MIA in Las Vegas, we hear right now. Peace.